Welcome back to Morning Rush. Reverend turned politician Raphael Warnock has clinched the race for the U.S. Senate and made history as a result. He wins over Republican incumbent Kelly Loeffler. Reverend Warnock becomes the first African-American U.S. Senator elected in Georgia. Overnight, he thanked Georgians and said he hopes his improbable path to Washington inspires many others, that the American dream is possible for all. And with one race down, we're still awaiting the results in the race between incumbent David Perdue and Democrat Jon Ossoff. This one has been one to watch in the last hours. A lot of changes. Ossoff took the lead overnight. It has since grown. He leads by about 16,000 votes. It's a race still considered too close to call, though. It's less than half a percentage point of a margin. It could possibly be forced into a recount. Liza Lucas joins us now from the newsroom. Liza, we're talking about a fraction of a percentage here.
That is indeed the case. Right now, we're looking at the margin between Perdue and Ossoff. We're talking about 0.38. That is well within the legal window within where a candidate can call for a recount. So that all remains to be seen this morning, with still some in-person early votes left to be counted, as well as some absentee ballots that we're still watching and waiting for. Now, Gabrielle Sterling with the Secretary of State's office, he tells the 11 Alive that the majority of those outstanding votes, they're expected to come from Democratic-leaning counties.
Knowing that the absentee ballot population will kind of follow along the state's population, we anticipate to see a lot of them coming in from the urban areas, which are generally Democratic.
Now, Sterling says the more rural areas actually finished processing their absentee ballots, so don't expect to see a corresponding offset coming in from those particular areas of the state. Sterling also tells 11 Alive that we could have a final outcome very soon, possibly even today, but we may not have a final tally of votes until Friday, and that's because of the deadlines for cured, military, and overseas ballots. So there are a lot of eyes on these shifting numbers to see if there will be a call for a recount.
All right, which Georgia has gotten fairly good at.